Does it say? Okay, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. My name is Bracha Schoonover. Today is the second day of Tammuz. And what is it in English? July 8th. July 8th, 2024. I like to date the recordings just so when I look back, when my kids come back 40 years later and go, oh my gosh, look at what my mom was doing 40 years ago. Yeah, so those of you who have just entered, I just told a little bit story about my personal journey. And where that leads us up to is right now that the reason that I wanted to have this class was to hopefully share, in part, share with people who are here and people who, God willing, will be watching in the future, some of the strength and some of the great awareness that I was able to, that came to me through the power of Psalms. And part of my conclusion at the end of the end of this gathering is I was going to say, but I've got to say it now, it's a lifelong journey to find a path through, to find a way through the ocean. I think it comes from Tehillim also. God makes a path for us through the ocean, and it's a lifelong journey for us. And so I wanted to share, hopefully, I hope that I'll be able to share all the inspiration that I've received through my practice of Psalms with you, with everybody here. So with that being said, I am going to, I'm going to share my screen right now with some papers. Hold on, copy. And I'm going to share my screen. First of all, does anybody have any questions before we start? Okay, I'm going to share the screen, and this is some things that I put together from various sources. Okay, let's see. Oh my gosh. Okay, can everybody see my screen that says Personal Transformation Through the Psalms of King David? I can't see. Can somebody just give me a heads up? Like by voice, because I can't see this. I can't see you guys. No?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that feedback. Okay.
Yes, so, we can see.
Great. You guys have printed papers. Can you share that packet? Perfect. With her. She has one. Okay, good. Okay, so I wanted to start off because I wanted to start off with a historical background, a very brief historical background. I'm not a historian, but we need to know who wrote the Book of Psalms. And the truth is, it is attributed to King David, but there were other writers of the Psalms, according to what we know. There were a few other composers who their Psalms are also included in 150 of the Psalms, the Book of Psalms as we know it today. The historical background of David, who's attributed as the author, the son of Jesse. And he lived, as you can see on the screen, he lived from 907 before the Common Era to 837 before the Common Era. And this was the era of prophets. And that's a key word, prophets. The people who were alive back then had certain skills and gifts and abilities that I want to give you a key word, an important understanding that the Jews are prophets and we're sons of prophets, which means that even if we don't have those skills sharpened at this moment, we're sons of prophets. You could say it's in our DNA, and we have the skills and the gift of prophecy. And I'm not saying I'm prophesizing or anyone here is doing it, but we have this gift. And I feel like our lifelong journey is to sharpen those skills and share the gifts at whatever stage we're up to, And so that's why the book of Psalms is so, it's almost like a chariot. It's like your taxi ride to get to expanded states of consciousness. And what that means, we can talk about later, but we're tapping into words and thoughts and feelings and emotions that were written by, I'm just going to say King David. And when I say King David, you know, it means all of the poets that contributed to the Psalms. We're tapping into words of prophecy, and that gives us an avenue, a method, a way of accessing divine states at any level, whatever level. Okay, so he was the 7th son of Jesse. He was 10 generations from Judah, who was the tribe of Judah. Remember, there were 12 tribes, Judah being one of the sons of Jacob, our forefather, Jacob the patriarch, Yaakov Avinu. So David was only 11 generations from Jacob. And he was also the great-grandson of Ruth, the Moabite convert, which is a very, very important nikuda, an important punctuation mark, because David is attributed to being the stock of the Messiah. Don't get triggered, the Messiah. For me, I get triggered, so caveat, don't get triggered. But the fact that a convert, the lineage of the future, let's say the future, some future reality for the Jewish people and for the entire world, the seed of that comes from a convert. So we're going to see how the whole realm of possibilities opens up when it's not only the Jewish people that have this responsibility, but also converts, and then beyond converts is also people that are not Jewish, that don't share our faith, but they share a certain part of responsibility along with the rest of the world. The plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, the mineral kingdom, it's all one big symphony. And it comes down to the Jews. Bereshit Chachma, we're like the head, the Jews are the head. King David was a shepherd. Moses was a shepherd. Jacob, Isaac, Abraham, they were all shepherds. Shepherds have time to contemplate. Shepherds have time to contemplate. They're kind to their herd. They're kind. They have their boundaries. They know how to herd people and herd the sheep, but they also have time to contemplate and expand and look at the bigger picture. Many of our forefathers were shepherds. David was also a musician. He had famously, you may have heard, he had a lyre. He had an instrument, a musical instrument that he had it hung up at the top of his bed. And at night, at midnight, every midnight, the north wind would blow and would wake him up. And then it was time to pray. He also, at that time, because we'll go through briefly his biography, but he had a lot of challenges. He had a lot of emotional and spiritual and physical challenges. People were trying to kill him. He had challenges, just like you and me. And I heard such a sweet story that he, under his covers, he would cry. He would go to sleep under his covers and he would cry and he would pray and he would compose his prayers and he'd compose his speech and his longing to God. And just imagine, I've been under my covers crying. Who hasn't been under their covers crying?
Everybody.
I don't know anybody who hasn't. When I heard this about King David, I'm like, this book, you can't see it, I'm sharing my screen, but this book consists of all these songs and all these prayers. Is somebody trying to get in? I don't know. This book consists of these prayers that were composed and comprised of a person who was crying under his bed sheets. So to me, that was so sweet, and that just gives me another way of connecting to all the words that I could find in this book. He was a warrior. People were fighting against him, and the greatest thing he did was he united the kingdom of Judah and all the different tribes that had dispersed. He was the first king. He was the second king of Israel, but he was the first one to unite them. And then the king after him was his son, King Solomon. I don't remember the name of the first king. He was also a spiritual leader because once he was able to unite the entire kingdom, everyone loved him. Everyone thought, oh my gosh, we're united people. And think about nowadays how fractured we are as a people. Okay, thank God we have the state of Israel, the land of Israel, but look at how fractured we are. Look at even our own people, our own brothers and sisters are fighting against us. Imagine how much love and compassion and gratitude all of us, you, me, and our cousins, will be when there's a person, a king, a Messiah, a Messiah that's going to be able to unite all this machloket, all this stuff that's keeping us apart. And we're looking at each other and we're looking at the news of like, why are these people doing this? Why are they doing this? They're our own brothers and sisters. Well, King David was able to unite the nation. And this is what we're aspiring to, unity. We're aspiring to unity as a people. When we received the Torah, we were one people with one heart. That's how we were able to receive the Torah. And the only way we're going to get out of our current situation, political, physical, everything, is when we unite. Hopefully, the Psalms of King David is one highway. We're all walking on this one highway. And the more people that we gather and walk with us, that's unity. That's unity. So think of just being together with our sisters here and then our brothers and sisters on the outside. Samuel, the prophet, anointed David as the future king. King Saul was the first king. He was afraid David was going to usurp him. Samuel had, he was a prophet. He anointed King David before King Saul was finished. So King Saul has this jealousy and this fear. So King Saul tries to kill him, and he's chasing him, and David has to flee, and he's banished, and he's hiding, and he makes a pact with King Saul's son Jonathan, who a lot of people, they raise their eyebrows. What kind of a pact did he make? And some people say, oh, well, it was more than just a pact. It was two guys who love each other. Okay. But I won't go too much farther there, but there was a bond of brotherly love. And even when he talks about it in the Psalms, it's just like, can you just imagine two brothers, two human beings who love each other so much? David swears 2 times to Bathsheba, who is one of his wives. He swears that Solomon will be king, even though David also had another son named Absalom, who also wanted to be king and was jealous of Solomon and jealous and everything, and he revolts. And, it's another source, another thorn in David's side. The king wants to kill him. His son wants to kill him. He's like everywhere, all over the place. And then, unfortunately, Absalom dies in battle, and David is heartbroken. This is another source of information and another source of emotion that goes into the Psalms about how heartbroken he is, how fearful he is. Think about all of our challenges, our fears, our imaginations, our physical people, and also our own thoughts. So that was another source of King David's writings. His other son Adoniah, who also wants to succeed David and threatens revolt on his deathbed. It's like David had no peace. Solomon becomes third king of Israel, and he builds a second temple. Okay, so why is this relevant? How did we get to this point? There's my dog. The Psalms of King David comprise every phase of his life in the history of David, his exile, his persecution and struggles, and his eventual triumph. The Jewish people collectively as a nation, and individually, you, me, and everyone we know who's a Jew, we find a faithful prototype for our own life. No wonder the book of Psalms has throughout the ages served as a boundless source of inspiration, courage, and hope. Boundless, I should have highlighted that. Boundless meaning no barriers, no boundaries. And the only boundaries that we have in our life are in our own minds. Yeah. Whatever we're thinking about, those are our boundaries. And when we put our thoughts on the boundless, the infinite, the all-powering, the all-encompassing. You know what I'm getting at, right? I'm getting at some of the names and some of the attributes of the Creator, who is also God, is one of his names, the Lord, Hashem, all of the names that trigger people to no end. Depending on your relationship with God, you may have one, you may not have one, you may be mad at him, you may be searching for him. So let's call it the Psalms is a boundless source of inspiration, courage, and hope. To the Jewish people, King David is not dead. Have you heard the song, David Melech Israel, Chai, Chai V'Kayam? He's alive and he lives forever. That's the song. The song is about this. His memory lives on in his book of Psalms and in the messianic hope of Israel. Sorry, messianic hope. I'm the one that's triggered. I'm talking to myself. As our prophets has promised us, Messiah will be descendant of King David, the king of Israel. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to stop sharing for 1 second, and I'm going to try again to share it later, but I want to know if anybody has any questions. Does anybody have any questions?
I do.
You did have a question? Go ahead.
No, because I was seeing and I didn't know that the sons Absalom or the other one, Kol Isha.
Yeah. He had many sons.
Huh?
He had many sons. He had several children. He had daughters.
So in the end, no, Solomon becomes the king. Is he one of his sons?
Yes. Solomon was his son with Bathsheba. Bathsheba. Yes, Solomon was one of his sons. I forgot. Everyone, if you have a charity box, if you have a charity box, please put a few coins if you have here in that green thing.
Yeah.
I'm such a everybody bring your charity box, and I'm forgetting to put the charity.
Here
or there?
Put it here, anywhere you want. Just stick it. And when you do it with 2 hands. This brings our entire body into the act of charity. That's what they say. And so we want to, all the Torah that we're learning and talking about right now, we want to bring it into action, and we want to internalize it in our body. Here, go, please. Feel free. And if you would, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. It's the month of Tammuz. I have 4 yortzites in my family. And Belina, would you please do the favor? First, light a candle for King David, and we're gonna see if we can connect. There's a concept of binding to the Tzadik, binding to the righteous person.
Okay.
Yeah, be careful. Be careful. The top. Yeah.
So you were saying we have to put it with 2 hands?
Yes. Try here. There's a box right here.
What was it?
Put right here.
Oh,
Can you bring it to her? Can you hand it to her? Yeah, 2 hands.
So put it with 2 hands.
Yeah, just 2.
Anything or?
Anything you wish in your own mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
So whenever you give the charity, you have to do it with 2 hands.
It's
Okay, we didn't know.
Good to know.
I didn't know.
yeah. If you're hitting a button on the computer, then just say I'm putting my whole mind and body and soul into this charity, because
Okay.
usually people just like hit the button, but when you're privileged to have a coin, do it with both hands.
Okay, do you wanna light
also-
all of them? Should I light all of them?
Please light one for King David. I'm sorry, guys, got a little nervous. Just went backwards here. But
Don't worry. We are
all
really
week
happy.
long, are we still recording? Yes. All week long, as I was preparing for this class, I just felt King David was with me.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
You
So
don't have to worry,
it's,
you don't have to worry.
I don't
It's
have to worry.
beautiful. It's beautiful.
So we're lighting a candle for him, and we will just invoke the memory of any of our loved ones that have passed already, so that our Torah will serve as an elevation for their neshama. Feel free to, I can't hear you, Ronit, but feel free to, great.
Lucky they're not
What
staying-
happened?
That they're not staying on.
Feel free to name any person or tzaddik that you want to connect with right now, and anyone, the soul of anyone who needs elevation. Hopefully, with the help of Hashem, our Torah will serve as an elevation for their souls. Okay,
Okay, here's one.
thank you, everyone. Here,
You want another
Belina.
one?
Here, one for your sister. Here's a list. All these people, my grandfather, your sister, my aunt Raquel, and my uncle Sabeto, and my grandfather Moses, Moshe. They all have door sites now. Okay, so back to the top list.
Summertime must have been
I'm sharing my screen again, sorry. Okay, share.
Okay, who's next?
Okay, so let's talk about actually what we're gonna be reading or what people
Okay.
read when they open the book. When they open the book of Psalms, and actually when they open any of the holy books in our tradition, the Torah, the Navi, all of the 5 books and all of everything that we know in our tradition, there are different layers of interpretation. Just like when people speak, there's different layers of interpretation. People could say, yes, I feel good, but inside, there's something deeper. So we're talking about something called PARDES, which literally translated means orchard.
Okay.
And PARDES in Hebrew, the P stands for pshat, which means literal meaning. And then the R, PARDES, you can tell by the words PARDES, P-R-D-S. We have the literal meaning, which is pshat. We have the remez, which is a hint or an allegory or an illusion. When you're talking, it's like allegorical. Then you have drash, which is midrashic, and interpretation as in parables or riddles. So like they're not really saying what they mean, but it's a parable. So you could deduce what they're saying. And then the best one that I love is called sod, which means secret or the inner or the esoteric meaning. This is like the secrets and the wisdom that we learn in Kabbalah. Oh, what happened to this? We learn in Kabbalah, and anytime there's something that's deeper than what's written in the actual words, okay? So we're just gonna look briefly. It's on your sheet and it's also on the screen. Psalms 3.1. This is like a pshat interpretation. It's pshat meaning literally, literal interpretation. 3.13. A psalm of David when he fled from his son Absalom. And then we just talked about the historical reference. His son literally was chasing him, was trying to kill him. He wanted to become the king. He was chasing him and trying to kill him. So imagine if your own son is trying to kill you, what kind of poetry are you gonna write? Or what kind of drums are you gonna bang? Or what kind of, who are you gonna kill? Okay, so a psalm of David when he fled from his son Absalom, and you're gonna find physical, historical references throughout the entire book of Psalms. Oh Lord, my foes are so many. Many are those who attack me. Many say of me, there is no deliverance for him through God, Selah. Okay, so right here, actually, in addition to a historical reference, you also have.
What is Selah?
Selah is like they don't really know what it means. They don't really know.
Yeah, right.
It's all over. And to me, it's like a sigh. It's like,
Oh, okay.
like when you don't really know, you just like kind of sigh. That's my interpretation.
Okay.
I'm sure we could Google.
No, because I never knew a meaning for it, and I hear it after each.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
At each sentence,
Right.
Selah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so in this particular sentence that I just picked out here, notice that it says, "Oh Lord, my foes are many. Many are those who attack me. Many are those who attack me." Okay, yes, literally the pshat, he did have a lot of enemies and there were people attacking me. But everywhere he says, my foes, my enemies, my this, he's not only talking about people, he's also talking about his own thoughts.
Oh my God. Those are the worst.
He's also talking about his own thoughts that are sabotaging him, the thoughts that are chasing him. Think about how you you have this thought in your mind that's like overpowering you and you're trying to get away from it. And like you're trying to do everything to distract yourself from this thought that's like made up, whatever. Many are those who attack me. Many say of me, there's no deliverance for him through God. And even your own thoughts tell you there's no way out. That there's no way out. Yes, this is how deep this is. Belina found a way. This is how deep the Psalms are. So we can read these on all different levels. And when we connect to this, you're not going to connect to all of them all the time in every way. And it's almost like when you go swimming, you know how to swim. Once you learn how to swim, you don't think about, oh, the gravity and the buoyancy and the torque and the speed and the hold my breath. You don't think about all those things at the same time. But once you practice, you get into a flow of how to swim. Same thing with riding your bike. Anything we do, breathing. We don't think every time how the oxygen comes in and how our body uses it. But once we do it, things happen. We don't have to know how they're happening, but when you practice and experience and practice and experience, it happens. And you don't have to think about the peshat and the remez and all of this stuff. You just become, your body and your mind and your soul and everything just kind of like gets taken up with the current. So then the next one is the remez, the allegory. Okay, you, all the nations, this is Psalms 886.9. All you nations have made, all the nations you have made will come to bow down before you. Okay, nations can't bow down, right? So that's an allegory to like subservience, like, and will pay honor to your name. It's an allegory. Nations can't bow down. We're allegorically saying that the nations are going to be subservient to God. And then we have the next one, Psalms 52.4, Drash, which is the parable. Your tongue devises mischief. 52.4, your tongue devises mischief like a sharpened razor that works treacherously. So here again, think about your enemies, think about yourself, think about anybody whose tongue, meaning words that people say, right? Tongue is an allegory for what somebody's saying to you. It's like a sharpened razor, like people's words can hurt. People's words can cut through you, literally, in a bad way, and spoiler alert, in a good way. Sometimes people say things to you that hurt. You needed to hear it. You needed to be cut a little bit, because that's where you really look inside at that wound, and that's where your healing can come. And then the sod, the secret, the esoteric Psalms. This one, Psalm 100, is one of my favorites. This is the gratitude Psalm. It's esoteric. And I'll just read it real quick. A psalm for the Thanksgiving offering. Remember in the temple, in the first and second temple, they had sacrifices, and not only animal sacrifices, they sacrificed meal, they sacrificed, what else? Sheaves, their harvest, their grains, they sacrificed a lot of things. There were different reasons and purposes, but this psalm in particular is describing the Thanksgiving offering, or mentioning that Thanksgiving offering. And King David is encouraging people to raise a shout for God. All the earth, all the entire earth should shout for God. And the entire earth, everyone and everything on earth should serve the Lord in gladness. And we should come into his presence with shouts of joy. It's not easy, but that's what he's saying. And then he says, know or acknowledge that the Lord is God. He made us and we are his. We are his people and the flock he tends. So he's like our shepherd. So he's kind to us, and we go along with the flow. Enter his gates with thanksgiving, praise. Enter his courts with acclamation. So in the temple, like in any home, there's an outer gate. And then there's a court, and then there's an inner court until you get to the Holy of Holies. The same thing, like a house has an outer gate, then a courtyard, then the front door, and then you come in, and then you go to the kitchen, you go to the bedroom, there's gates and gates and gates. So imagine in this psalm, you're actually entering, getting closer and closer to the seed, to the portal, let's say, of God. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and praise. And everybody knows about gratitude, how gratitude is like the clincher. Gratitude is what shifts everything. Enter his courts with acclamation, praise him, bless his name. For the Lord is good, his steadfast love is eternal. His faithfulness is for all generations. So it's deep. It has a lot of meaning, just like every psalm. Some will speak to you more than others. And so that's one of my favorite. Okay, so.
Sorry.
It's okay, as long as it's not me. Okay, so next, love your neighbor as yourself as a divine consciousness at the end of days, okay? In the past, when we were in exile 1,000, 2,000 years ago, I heard this beautiful story that really the task for the Jewish people was to, I'm gonna stop sharing for 1 second because I wanna see people. The task that we've had over the last 2,000 years is just stay Jewish. Keep the halachot, keep the laws, keep the customs, keep the rituals, keep the traditions, so you can recognize yourselves on this physical plane. Then we had the Holocaust, we've had all the pogroms throughout, and the most important thing for people, and even up until very, very recently, was keep the mitzvahs. Okay, if you don't know how, just keep the mitzvahs, just keep the mitzvahs. And at this point in history, keeping the mitzvahs is not enough.
Interesting.
It's not enough. How, I kept kosher almost all my life. I kept Shabbat almost all my life. It wasn't enough to save my marriage. I'm sorry, it wasn't enough to save my marriage. I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't have any reason. I felt like it didn't help me. And I know a lot of people that they just, they see guys walking around with tzitzit. I'm sorry, nobody that we know smoking a cigarette. It's like, how religious is a person, or who is going to smoke cigarettes and not respect their body, let's say, or a person who speaks evil, who speaks bad about another person. It's like, it doesn't matter how holy you are, how kosher you are, how whether you have a wig or whether, it doesn't matter what you look like or what you do. It's the inside. It's something beyond. So keeping a mitzvah is not enough. It's very important, and it's a channel. For sure, it's a channel, but you have to have a greater understanding of why you're doing it. And the truth is, all the mitzvahs, we really don't know why. The purpose of doing the mitzvahs is to connect to holiness. That's the only reason. So if you're connecting to a mitzvah because you want to wear a wig because you want to be this, or you're wearing tzitzit, or you're keeping Shabbat, or this, or this, or this, any reason we could say why I'm keeping a mitzvah or doing something, you have to put all of that aside and say, I'm just doing it to bring holiness into the world. And that's it. Everything else is commentary. Everything else comes along with it, but really the main task is we're connecting to the divine through mitzvahs. But it's really not enough, because most people just learn, we have to keep kosher. We don't eat meat and milk together. That's not enough of a reason. It's not, to me, it wasn't enough of a reason. It just didn't hold water anymore. And that's what Sod is, the inner Torah. Inner Torah expands, gives us greater perspective and greater awareness of what we're doing in this world. And in order to be able to access that greater awareness, there's a certain element of purification that we need to do, either whether we know it or whether we don't know it. Sometimes we choose to put up boundaries. Okay, a side note. The first 2 commandments, I am the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt, and you shall have no other gods before you. That's the entire guideline of the Torah. Whatever your thoughts, your words, or your actions are, you're either going towards connection, being connected with God. Whereas I am the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt, whenever you choose the positive, you're connecting. And whenever you put up boundaries and step away from other gods, right? You shall have no other gods before you. Anytime you turn away from something, you're putting up, you're kind of purifying and clarifying yourself, and you're choosing holiness, you're choosing connection. So when it comes down to it, everything we're doing in our life, it's like everything is binary. It's a yes or no situation. It's male, female. It's what is it on the computer? The bits, binary computing. I don't know, light, dark. Everything is opposites. So either you're going towards the light or you're going away from the light. And every time you choose to step away from the darkness and to put up boundaries and say, I'm not getting involved in that, whether it's evil speech, whether it's food that's not sure, whatever action you're choosing, you're either going towards God or going towards the darkness. So that's the whole thing. So that being said, throughout the last 200 years of history, hold on one second. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol niyeh b'dvaro. For the last 2,000 years, keeping kosher and all that, it just wasn't enough. And now the injunction, the thing that we need to do is v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, which means love your neighbor as yourself. And what does that mean? Obviously, we have to be kind to our neighbors, and we have to bring them a cup of sugar if they need sugar, whatever they need. We want to be kind to our neighbors. We treat them the way we want to be treated, but it goes more than that. It has to do with bonding and feeling in your heart. It's not only your actions, it's feeling in your heart and thinking in your mind that we are all connected. So I want to talk about the hostages for a second. The plight of any other Jew, especially, of course, human beings, but for transformation to happen on the global scale, Jews have to become one, like we were on Mount Sinai. So when there are hostages, I have the chills right now, when there's hostages that are in captivity right now, each and every Jew needs to connect and bind themselves with their plight. It doesn't mean you have to imagine yourself there, whatever it means for you, to imagine yourself being bonded with their plight is a way of elevating them. And when you bind with them in that way, you elevate them, because think about how lucky we are, how cushy we are. We're sitting here at a table, we're on a Zoom, we have air conditioning, we eat what we want, we go to the bathroom when we want, anything we want, we can do, we're free. They're captive. Anytime we put our attention on them and think good things and think of freedom for them, salvation for them, food, think about them going to the bathroom, think about them in the opposite of the situation they are, we're elevating them. And trust me, this is prayer. This is prayer, and prayer works. That's what all the prophets did. That's how they got to their divine states. That's how women get their power, because they're able to connect. Think about childbirth. Anyone here who's had a child who's been in excruciating pain or any kind of pain, when you get through that pain, when you get to that point of pain, I know people who are here in the circle have been through pain. What's on the other side? How do you get through pain? You submit. You submit. You submit.
Submit to the pain.
Submit to the pain and
out.
accept and submit. It's the element, it's the severe, the energy center of Hod. When you bow and you know that this is totally beyond your control, and you're just a channel, just a chariot, you're just a vessel for whatever you submit, and whatever happens, and then hopefully we get a new breath of life. Probably a lot of people here have been in dire straits, and the only way to get through it is to submit. And when you submit, you have a feeling of gratitude, and that gratitude is what gets you over to the other side. Okay, so that's my little bit. All right, let me go back to screen sharing. Okay. Okay, we're done with that. We did that. The inner. Okay, back to love your neighbor as yourself, as divine consciousness at the end of days. This is in the Torah. It has two places where it talks about the 10 commandments. This is in the second place. It says, you shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against members of your people. That means Jewish people who hate other Jewish people or who are against the collective. We all need to be together. Love your fellow as yourself. I am Hashem. I am God. I am the God who took you out of Egypt. You have to love each other as one. Now, Jeremiah the prophet says, in the future, it will not be like the covenant I made with their ancestors when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt. He's prophesizing a covenant that they broke, though I espoused them. So God was encouraging us, don't break the covenant, don't break the covenant. He made a covenant with us and he led us by the hand. We talk about it at the Passover Seder every year. He made a covenant with us and he took us with a hand and his outstretched arm and all that, we remember. Such is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel after these days. He says, I will put my Torah into their inmost being and inscribe it upon their hearts. And then I will be their God and they shall be my people. So we need to bring the Torah into our hearts. He says he's going to do it. God says the Torah is going to be inscribed upon our hearts. And we can hurry the path along by doing it ourselves. We can bring the Torah to our hearts. And really that's what the deepest inner Torah is when we internalize it and bring it into our hearts and our emotions, and it becomes part of our physical body. Power of the imagination, our greatest gift. We need to be using our imagination for the good. Many times we let our imagination run away from us. Why did this happen? Shoulda, woulda, coulda, all that stuff. The Baal Shem Tov, who is the founder of the Hasidic movement, around the year 1800, late 1700s. This is one of his students writing. The student said, I heard from my master, the Baal Shem Tov, the place where a person's thought, mind, and consciousness reaches to, there his being is entirely. So if you think about being on the beach, you get like a moment of reprieve and you're on the beach. If you think that you are a worthless failure, then that's where you are, you're a worthless failure. So this is why prayer is so important. We keep our thoughts, our minds, and our consciousness on a realm beyond our understanding when things don't make sense. And even when we're grateful. Prayer is a way of binding our consciousness to the ultimate good, the boundless good. And it's a way of connecting with other people, right? The hafta l'recha kamocha, do unto others. It's a way of expanding your consciousness and rising above the limitations of our physical world. So the Baal Shem Tov says, wherever you put place your thoughts, your attention, that's where you're going. Just like a car, just like you're riding your bike. If you look over there, you're going in that direction. If you want to go to the right, but you're looking left, it's not going to be easy to get to the right. So even if in your mind, I want to improve my life, I want to have a better spiritual life, I want to have better relationships, but you're really placing your attention like all day long, ruminating and thinking and allowing your mind to wander to certain places, it's going to be harder to get to the place that you're going because you're focusing, your mind is getting off track. It's a lifelong journey, like I said at the beginning, and I'll say at the end, it's a lifelong journey to keep recentering and refocusing. But we're all going to do it. We're doing it right now as we're sitting together. Okay, the next quote that I wanted to bring here is also from the Torah. It's the Shema. The Shema, a lot of us know it. Many of us say it every day. If we don't, it might be a good idea to try it and try to remember to say it on a daily basis. And the words in English, hear, O Israel, listen with your ears. The Lord our God is one. And this is the meaning, the transcendent God is the God that's here on this physical world. It's like there's a connection. The God that's above and beyond and transcendent, the one who's above, beyond our understanding, it's the same God that's here, right here in this world, that made the table, that made me, that helps me breathe, that printed the book. It's the same God that's beyond, that's the same God that's here. This is how we unify. This is how we become one. And then it goes, you shall love your God with all your heart. Remember, we have to inscribe the Torah in our heart. With the heart that we're inscribing, we're going to love him with all our heart, with all our soul, and with all our might, with all our resources. Everything that we have at our disposal, we're going to bring that into loving our Creator. Don't get triggered. The Psalms is the pathway to get there somehow. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. This is why we speak to our children, and we're so concerned about educating our children, because the children are the guarantors. Recite these instructions when you stay at home and when you're away, when you lie down and when you get up, at all times. Remember, bind them as a sign on your hand. This is a reference to tefillin that the men wear. And everything that we do with our hands, which is a metaphor, everything we do with our hands is our actions. And let them serve as a symbol or a frontlet, which are tefillin also in the front. The men wear the tefillin in the front of their forehead, between their eyes. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Boundaries, barriers, everything that we put around us in our whole entire space is either we're going towards the divine or we're going away from the divine, and we need boundaries and barriers to protect our sanity.
Yeah.
Okay, screens, breaking through the illusion of duality. Okay, it's 1 o'clock, we're getting close. The Psalms are contained, there's 10 types of Psalms, and when you begin to read them, the superscript, which is the introduction of each Psalm, has the name of it. Like, for example, Ashrei, Mizmor, Shir, Nigun. Even in the English, if you're reading the English, sometimes it'll say Mizmor, sometimes it'll say Shir, but those are just the names, and each one has a different purpose. The final stage and goal of creation is to manifest sovereignty, where we as Jews, with perfect clarity and perfect alignment, we align our thought and our speech and our actions so that everything is aligned. And this happens on a personal level and on a macro level. So what we're thinking about matches what we're talking about, and it matches what we're doing. It's not easy. It's not easy. Like, you think you want to lose weight, you think about it, but then, and you talk about it, yeah, I'm going to go on a diet, but then what do? Eat cookies. So this is like a very basic physical manifestation of like aligning our thoughts, our speech, and action. But think also on the spiritual side, when you're thinking of doing inner work and thinking of breaking through spiritual and personal boundaries, we have to keep our thoughts focused there. We have to speak only good things. You speak good things about other people, that comes back to you. And the same thing with our actions. If you show acts of kindness, if you do acts of kindness, kindness is going to come to you. There's a pasuk, there's a sentence in Psalms, he who is kind, kindness surrounds him. So everything is like a mirror. So we want to try to have everything aligned, our thought, our speech, and our actions. I'm going to skip a little bit. There's different tenses. There's present tense and past tense in the prose of the Psalms. And there's also first person and second person and third person. So you're really breaking the barriers of time and space when you're reading Psalms. Now, you don't have to be thinking about all these technicalities while you're reading them. I'm just giving you a framework of what's literally happening, dissecting a little bit what's going on behind the scenes when you actually get into reading Psalms with emotion.
Even if we don't understand what we're reading.
You don't have to understand what you're reading, especially if you are lucky enough, if you know Hebrew and you read it in Hebrew. You can do that. It's very special. But even in English, when you read just the literal meaning, even if the literal meaning doesn't make sense to you,
Exactly.
still, you're still connecting with the intention that King David wrote. All of these emotions that he was going through as the king and the head of Israel, you're accessing that portal through his words. Through his words.
Okay.
This is also the secret of the Siddur. Even though many people say, I don't like praying with the prayer book because I didn't write the prayer, somebody else wrote the prayers for me. Yes, this is all true. However, the wise people who wrote the Siddur were using their gifts of prophecy to formulate the words that we need to repeat and feel, because prayer is feeling. Those words that they wrote were written with a divine clarity, that when we focus on the words of those prayers, we're getting on the highway. We're getting on their highway. We're getting on a path that they paved out for us. That's the Siddur. That's the prayer book.
Got a question.
Yeah.
So we sit down and we read. So when it starts kicking in, so sometimes I said, okay, I'm going to read 2 or 3, 10 minutes, 15. When it kicks in, when we start, when? We start and we continue.
She wants
reading.
to know, when does it kick in? When do you feel like you're getting on the highway?
Yeah.
When does it feel like you're starting to break through and like get a little bit of greater
'cause if we read
awareness?
10 minutes, I don't think it's enough.
It's personal.
Okay.
It's personal. It happens in different ways for different people. And the more you practice, that's why it's called a practice, a prayer practice, yoga practice. Anything you practice is called a practice, because you need to do it over and over to get better at it, to recognize what's happening as it's happening. And that's another thing that we could do. We could do classes on like meditation and what is meditation and what is prayer and how can we combine them to get the skills.
Okay.
But yes, the question was, how do we know when it's happening? And it's different for every person, and it takes different amounts of time for every person. But I encourage you, the more you practice, the more frequently it will happen, and the more fulfilled that you will feel, the more encouragement you will feel.
Okay.
Well, I have a question. What if you read them in your mind, but just wanders?
Yeah, that's.
Give yourself a kiss and say, I love you. I'm coming back to read the Psalms.
Me, I do the same. I start reading and I think something else.
Self-compassion.
How can I stay in here?
Exactly.
Self-compassion. It's all about self-compassion. When you get off track, like anything in life, not only when you're praying, but if you meant to do something and it didn't work out the way you wanted to, self-compassion. Self-compassion. And when you're in the prayer book and you're reading Psalms, whatever you're doing, if you get off track, self-compassion.
We go back. We go back then.
Just bring your thoughts back to where you were.
It's like a
without
meditation.
Without judging.
Thoughts come and then we go back. Okay.
We're not yes, go ahead.
So I have a question. Hi. So what you're saying also is, although I only read it in English, although I speak Hebrew, I don't know how to read Hebrew. And I do read Psalms every day. But even though I don't understand what I'm reading, I'm still connecting, is what you're saying.
That's what I'm
I also was told, which I recently started doing, and I didn't know, I've been reading Psalms for years, but sometimes I will read them in my mind and not say the words out loud or move my lips. And I was told by a Rebbitzin that you need to move your lips. You need to say the words.
In a loud voice, right? Well, in our voice, but talk, not inside.
Right, exactly.
Out the word. And listen to how. Yeah, go on. I don't want to interrupt you.
No. Tell me, because I love all of this. Is
the reason we need to speak is because speaking is the humans are the only ones in the whole of reality as we know it that have the gift and the skill to speak, and our words change reality. So we can think things. And we can want things and we can do things, but when we speak things, we actually give it form and presence. So we can think that we want to connect with King David, but when we speak it, that's like the catalyst that brings it into reality. That's why we have to be so careful what comes out of our mouth. Here,
Yes.
this is the opposite. Choosing words that are connecting you. Choosing words.
Right.
Yeah, sure. And I have a treat for you. I chant psalms in my own tune.
I love it.
In my own tune. Some people, some people are very artistically inclined, whatever, but I just decided, it's like kind of like a love song. So I started reading them, and then I thought, well, this is kind of lame. I'm just reading. And then, it's not lame. It's not lame. Everybody reads songs. Right. But I thought I would add my own personalization to it, and it became something otherworldly when I added my own voice, my own twist to it. So yes, that was advice from your Rebbitzin. Good advice. Okay, anybody else? Okay, hold on, back to the website just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, sorry, scrolling down, scroll in a good way. Okay, contemplative prayer is a pathway to enter the gates. There's so many barriers to connecting with the divine. There's so many barriers. And what I mean by connecting to the divine is connecting to our inner self. There's so many barriers, there's so much noise, there's technology, there's our jobs, there's our boss, there's our annoying spouse or husband or friends, annoying friends. We can approach the creator through his names, which there's a lot of different names, Ado, Elo, all the different names that you might have seen or heard in your prayer book. These are all filters, his actions and his attributes. He's loving, he's kind, he's angry. There's all different attributes that we assign to the creator, and the actions that he does. He saves us, he guides us, he loves us, all this different everything. So his names, his actions, and his attributes are filters. These are filters. So we can express ourselves through song, through art, through poetry, through dance. And then we also can express ourselves through everyday life, like at the grocery store, when we're cooking dinner, or when we're doing laundry. These are also can be acts of connection. All of our thoughts and words and actions can be aligned. All of the circumstances are an opportunity to step into alignment. So when you think about aligning everything, all the filters around us, all the screens, we have the power to transcend the filters. We can go break through the filters when we align ourselves with the boundless light. This is prophecy, and it's accessible. It's a lifelong journey to access states of unity and conscious awareness of connection. So relax, unclench, exhale, and breathe. It's lifelong. This is why we're here. It's a good fight. Okay, in Hebrew, just a little hint. In Hebrew, the word avir is connected to the word or. Avir is air, and or is light. Air and light. So sometimes you say, oh, I want to be in the light. Oh, I'm bringing light to somebody. I'm going to send light to you for healing. This is light. In Hebrew, light is or. And air, which is sometimes interchanged with light, like the breath of life. The difference in Hebrew is just one little letter, or and avir. There's one little letter, and the letter is yud. It's the smallest letter in the alphabet, and it's the pinpoint. This is like a little bit esoteric, but the letter yud is the pinpoint of light, where the first element of life comes through, breaks through the boundary for us. It's the Hebrew letter yud. Just so you know, it's the first dot when the scribe writes the Torah. It's the first pinpoint where the pen, the quill hits the parchment. That's the letter yud. So it's the first creative act. It's even before Bereshit, because in the beginning, God created. The letter Yud is the little crown on the letter Bet, which is the first letter of the alphabet. So air and light are connected, and that's what we want to tap into all the time. We want to tap into light and air and breathe. Psalms are a portal to expanded consciousness. Okay, so now we're going to do a little, I hope it's not too late for people. It's 1:12. I want to do a little meditative practice. And this will be the end. And what I wanted to say is meditation or prayer, each word is a world. Don't just read the Psalms. Take your time and pray them. Make them your own and see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to, I think that's the end. Is that the end? I think that's the end of my thing. I would like to, I'm going to take off the screen share. Let me see. I think that's the end of it. I'm going to take off screen share, and then I'm going to share a preparation that I do before I sit down to read Psalms. I'm on a list. I have a few different groups that I'm on, and like everybody takes turns reading one at their own time. And before I sit down to read Psalms, and I usually do it sitting down, and I carve out a few minutes a day to do this, or sometimes it takes a little longer than a few minutes, but okay, thank God I'm retired at time. The first thing I do is in my mind is I bind with the soul of King David. It may sound a little creepy, but the Tzadikim, the righteous, our forefathers, and the righteous people, the sages of our of all Jewish generations, their purpose is to help us get closer. So when we pray to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We're invoking them. We're connecting with them. And because King David is the author of the Psalms, when we invoke his help and his presence, he is hopefully going to help our reading of the Psalms to turn into prayer and help us with the connection.
That's nice.
So I'm going to share with you now how my chant, how I do it. And I invite everyone to close their eyes. And if you want to, you can sit up straight in your chair. This is how my teacher says. As soon as he says, sit up straight in your chair and uncross your arms and your legs, I know we're going in for a ride. So I invite you to close your eyes, sit up straight in your chair. Some of you, Cindy knows who I'm talking about. We have one rabbi in common. So I invite you to sit up straight in your chair, close your eyes if you feel comfortable, uncross your arms and your legs. And I would like to share with you how I prepare myself to read and pray the Psalms. And it goes like this. David, David, Melech Yisrael, David, Melech Yisrael, Chai, Chai, V'kayam, David, Melech Yisrael, Chai, Chai, V'kayam, Chai, Chai, V'kayam. David, Melech Yisrael, Chai, Chai, V'kayam. David, Melech Yisrael, Chai, Chai, V'kayam. David, Melech Yisrael, Chai, Chai, V'kayam. So that gets me in the mood sometimes. And then if you notice, I clapped. I wanted to get up and dance. One of the tzaddikim, one of the holy, our sages says that clapping and dancing breaks all decrees. So not only when you sing or when you speak it, Ronit, it's also said that clapping, it's like you've ever heard of energetic clearing.
You go up.
Clapping, some people clap at all the corners,
Yes.
clapping and dancing. And this is the secret of clapping and dancing on Purim. You know that Purim is like known for clapping and dancing and party and everything, because you're bringing down all of the shefa, all of the abundance from above. You're clearing, you're making a way, and you're just like, you're bringing all of that into your physical body. So, so then after I invoke the help of King David, it's called binding to the soul of the tzaddik. And you can do this, by the way, any sage or any holy person that you feel connected to. You could either locate a book that they wrote, or look up on Safari, on Google, like what were they famous for? Like what mitzvah or what teaching did they bring down? And you connect. For example, some people are really into Abraham Avinu. I know somebody who loves Abraham Avinu, Abraham, our forefather, our patriarch. And when they pray, they always like say, I'm connecting myself to Abraham and, you know, the forefather, the man of kindness and chesed. That's what he was known for, kindness. Everybody has like a different tzaddik, a different righteous person. And there's nothing wrong before you sit with your tefillah. You can connect yourself. You can just ask God, ask the universe. The God is not universe, because God is greater than the universe, okay? People say, I'm just gonna put it out in the universe, but really don't put it beyond the universe, because God is beyond the universe. But that's just an aside. Feel free, whatever, to make this practice your own. Whatever I'm telling you, take it, digest it, and put it to practice in however you feel works for you. So for Psalms, I like to tap into King David, and I am going to share. I wanted to know if you were still with us. I'm going to share this number 121. Okay. This is just my own tune. And again, I invite you to close your eyes, and you could read. I printed it. If you want to read what I'm saying, yes. Would somebody read number 121 out loud? Ronit, I don't mean to single you out, but I can see your face, and if you speak, if you turn on your mic, we can all hear you. If you could read it in English.
Okay. I got my book right here.
Go ahead.
Wait, give me a minute to get. Okay.
In English.
Shall I start? Okay. A song of ascents. I will lift my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot slip. He will not slumber, your guardian. Behold, he does not slumber, nor does he sleep, the guardian of Israel. Adonai is your guardian. Adonai is your shelter at your right hand. By day the sun will not smite you, nor the moon at night. Adonai will guard you from all evil. He will preserve your soul. Adonai will guard your going and coming from now and forever.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Okay, now that we know the meaning of what I'm about to chant for you, I invite you to close your eyes. If you want to continue reading along in English so that you can kind of get the feel of it, you are invited to 121, Psalm number 121. But now you know basically what the translation is. And I will just share with you my practice. Shir Lama'alot Esaina Ha'ari Me'ayin yavo Ezri. If tears come, it's okay. My teacher says that you know when you're saying Psalms correctly when you cry. Okay, so I'll just start over. If tears come, don't worry, and if they don't, you're perfect. Shir lama'alot esaina el heharim me'ayin yavo Ezri me'im Adonai Yoseh shamayim ba'aretz Al yiten lamot raglecha yanum shomrecha Hine lo yanum velo yishan shomer Yisrael Adonai shomrecha Adonai tilcha yad yeminecha Yomam hashemesh lo yakeka v'yareach b'layla Adonai yishmarcha mikol ra yishmarcha Adonai